All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Full Circle Podcast. It is your favorite brother, Joseph, as always. A sitting president accusing a former president of treason. Can you guess who can you guess who it is? Not the sitting president. We know who that is. Can you guess who he's accusing of treason? We'll talk about that today on the program. Also, I want to lean into a couple of thoughts today about how to stay energized and hopeful with everything that's going on in the political landscape, and also talk with you guys a little bit about some of just some thoughts that I've been having about just keeping yourself focused and grounded with everything that's going on. I know we've usually talked about self-help stuff, and I do want to bring that, of course, continually into the conversation, but this stuff is just too wild to ignore. So we're going to get into that right away. Before we do, I just want to let you know, if you've been taking the time to listen to us, whether you're watching on YouTube, we have some video episodes we're starting to post on Spotify, so check that out as well. Or if you're just listening, anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, I don't know where you listen. Maybe you have these burned to a CD on a Walkman because you're still stuck in the old era. That's all right. We appreciate it. I want you right now, if you're getting any value from the content that we produce here at Full Circle Podcast, go ahead and subscribe. What are you doing? What are you doing right now? Tap that button, click that mouse right now. Go ahead and subscribe to the content that we have. As I always say, it is truly free to support a nigga. It really is. Unless you want to do more. You can do more. We appreciate more. More is always good. But thank you once again. And I really love creating this content for y'all, looking to create more as we begin to expand here. But thank you once again. I always want to say at the beginning. All right. So today, we're talking about coup claims, deepfakes, political blame games. Now, you might ask yourself, why is this happening right now? Why is a sitting president accusing a former president of treason? Is Trump exposing a truly national betrayal, or is he rewriting history to serve a different narrative, especially given the fact that he has been implicated in some ways, whether by direct files, video content, or known relationships in the Jeffrey Epstein case? So I just want to dive into that very quickly right here. So this is the quick summary of everything, just to kind of give you guys a full circle look. Donald Trump, about a day ago, accused President Obama during a meeting with the Philippine president, which, poor guy. I mean, imagine coming all the way here from the Philippines, or from any country for that matter, and to have to be subjected to this narrative that should not be part of a meeting with a foreign leader. Imagine this coming out and becoming a spectacle, because that's what this really has boiled down to. It's become a spectacle. So yesterday, during a briefing, he accused President Obama of orchestrating a 2016 coup using U.S. intelligence agencies to undermine his presidential election. I promise you, this is not a joke. This is not a lie. This is not just conjecture. This is something that a president of the United States has actually said during a presidential meeting and briefing. So that's where we start today, as crazy as that sounds, but it gets even worse. Then Tulsi Gabbard, who is now the director of national intelligence, claims today, coming out in a news briefing today, that this is something that is actually true, and she refused to directly say whether it was treason or not. We'll show you guys some clips of that in just a moment, but she supports this claim regarding the 2016 election. Also, President Trump released a video of President Obama being arrested, which was a deepfake, and the video went viral. What we want to talk about today is what is true that we know so far, what is dangerous, and what is politically calculated. And I want to start right here with the coup allegation. So President Trump yesterday, alleged that President Obama and top officials, including Secretary of State Hillary Clinton at the time, conspired in late 2016 to falsely link Trump's campaign to Russia. Now, Trump is claiming that internal documents prove it was a political operation, not a national security issue, and Tulsi Gabbard declassified memos that allegedly show intelligence officials were pressured to inflate Russian election interference. Now, She is the DNI under Donald Trump's second term, and she said that she declassified intel to reveal a covert operation to delay or undermine the certification of 2016 results, calling it the greatest abuse of intelligence power rather, in modern history. Now, with that being said, what I want to do is not just show this as a conversational thing. I actually want to take you guys to the source, and I want to show you exactly where this was said by President Trump about a day ago. This is while they were discussing the whole situation with Jeffrey Epstein in that case. And Donald Trump is basically saying, why should we be trying to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell? Why should we be trying to deal with this situation? What we should be talking about is the 2016 circumstance, which makes you wonder, if Trump was president back in 2017 through 2021, why not talk about this then? Why not have your Department of Justice address this then? But I'm going to go ahead and cue this up, and you go ahead and you decide for yourself. Here we go. All right. And here it is.
The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 of the election. They tried to rig the election.
Now, I want you to understand how serious this claim is. You are accusing, and I know that this doesn't seem to catch any attention because the White House and the presidency has literally turned into reality TV show, like if Love Island went political or something like that. That is what this is. But the thing about it is, this is real. This is like government running on a daily basis, and it just gets more and more ridiculous. Now, with all this coming out, the question is, if this is a serious claim, where's the documentation? Where's the proof? All of this is just conjecture. Why can't we physically see any evidence of this, and why have not arrests been made? This is the same thing that happened back in the circumstances with Doge, where they said, oh, we have all this evidence that's occurring right now of waste, fraud, and abuse. And now their own people, I believe Steve Bannon, said they haven't found any evidence of it, who is one of Trump's top people. So where is the evidence? Except for, outside of bluster and big commentary, we're not really seeing physical evidence. So it sounds really fluffy, but it's crazy to me that if any other president says this, the media would blow up about it. It would be a huge deal. And now we're just looking at it as, oh, here we go. Typical Trump stuff. And it just gets more and more ridiculous. Keep listening.
And they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. When we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people.
Okay, so as you can see right here, as we have talked about previously, this administration is not serious about actual justice. And that's something that I want to just talk about for just a brief second here. This administration is not serious about actual justice. This administration, as you can hear by what he said, it's time to, quote, go after people. This whole election, this whole thing, whether you believe that it was lawfare, whether you believe that it was legitimate in prosecuting Donald Trump, this whole presidency has been about political revenge. It's been about economic dominance, in a sense, trying to get other countries to bend to our will, basically through imperial or otherwise means, taking over other countries like Canada, making Greenland part of the United States. As I asked you in last episode, what has this administration done that is actually helping you? What has this administration done in the first 6 or 7 months of this year that is putting more money in your pocket, that is going to lower the cost of childcare, that is lowering the cost of grocery prices, that is going to make things more affordable for Americans? Where's that healthcare bill that was talked about that's always been 2 weeks away for the last almost 10 years? This is what we're talking about here. This is a campaign that largely Republicans and Trump himself ran off of political retribution. And what we're seeing here is a full-blown weaponization of the Justice Department to create stories and ruses to go after political enemies where there is no presented evidence, just bluster, just rhetoric, and just comments to rile up the base. This is unbelievable to me. I've never seen anything like this in all my times of looking at politics, and it just gets crazier and crazier. But I'm going to skip a couple past this because he starts talking about, you know, his own perspective on the situation with Hillary. But I want to get straight to the point of what he said about President Obama. Here we go.
Obama's been caught directly.
Right here.
So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President?
So this is what we're looking at here. Once again, President Obama did request that the intelligence community look into the circumstance regarding the Russia collusion situation, or the Russia interference situation, rather, because that's an important thing to look at, because there were people that were believing that this was going to be done to help Donald Trump's campaign. Well, as you can see, he's accusing President Obama of staging or trying to commit treason and running a coup. But President Obama peacefully transferred power. So this narrative here that is being said completely and absolutely makes no sense. You would think to yourself, how would this be true? How would somebody actually use this as a logical reasoning base of communication? But as we can clearly see right here, this administration, the only administration in United States history that has been accused, and not even just accused, but that has some evidence of their followers trying to stage a coup on January 6, 2021, to overturn the results of an election, sending a fake slate of electors to overturn those results. That's the only administration that's been accused of this, and we have footage of this on tape. But all of a sudden, when the Epstein case comes up, this is something that now they want to turn attention away from. Now, President Obama called these claims, quote, deranged and delusional, and says it was a, quote, clear distraction, unquote, from ongoing legal scrutiny facing President Trump. Now, there are bipartisan intelligence findings, and you can look this up from the Washington Post, that repeatedly confirmed that Russia interfered to help President Trump in this situation. Now, does that mean that the results of the 2016 election were not true and fair? No, that's not the case. But they're saying that there was some activity with the intention of trying to overturn or trying to influence, rather, the results in the election. Now, this declassified intel lacks a smoking gun, which many of these cases, including the situation that happened with Hunter Biden, many of these cases, while there's been evidence of something, it lacks the smoking gun that actually would make it credible and fully pursuable in a court of law to actually prosecute. There's no proof of vote alteration here. There's no proof of coup plotting or criminal conspiracy. And former DNI chief Dan Coates and Senate Republicans in 2020 also confirmed Russia's pro-Trump efforts. And you can find that on factcheck.org. But guess what? It gets even more interesting. Listen to this quote. I'm going to play you a quote from President Obama back in 2016 in his last press briefing. And then I'm going to play you a quote of the current president and then President Donald Trump commenting on the same topic. Check this out. This is very interesting. Let me go ahead and cue this up here. This is President Obama commenting on the matter in 2016, as I promised. Here we go. Just a moment here. Okay, here we go.
What we've simply said is the facts, which are that based on uniform intelligence assessments, the Russians were responsible for hacking the DNC, and that as a consequence, it is important for us to review all elements of that and make sure that we are preventing that kind of interference through cyber attacks in the future.
So as you can clearly see here, what President Obama said back in 2016 in his final press briefing, it is their responsibility. It is the responsibility of the intelligence community, and it is the responsibility at the time of his government, and any president for that matter, to ensure that if there is any meddling that's taking place, or if there is anything that would alter the validity of an American election from an outside power or even done internally, that would be properly investigated. And that is exactly what he did. But it gets even crazier, because now, if you actually look at after Donald Trump got elected, even though he kept claiming that the election was going to be rigged and it was going to be a whole mess and everything like that, if you actually look at what Donald Trump himself said after winning the election, here is how he himself agreed with President Obama's comments. Check this out. Okay, once again, queuing it up. And here we go.
I have full faith and support for America's great intelligence agencies, always had. And I have felt very strongly that while Russia's actions had no impact at all on the outcome of the election, let me be totally clear in saying that, and I've said this many times, I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place. Could be other people also. There's a lot of people out there. There was no collusion at all.
So there you have it. He said, by his own admission, that Russia was involved in trying to affect the outcome of the election. What the hell is going on? Why is this coming up right now? This is something that you have to ask yourself. If there was an opportunity to deal with this back then, and you're the president, and you can review these files, declassify them, look into them, why is this coming up now? Why is this coming up now? Now, the internal debate within the agencies, this is what the documents actually show. There was internal debate within the agencies trying to figure out how strong the Russia evidence was. There was a question. Can we trust this? Can we rely on this? Is this valid? But that does not equal conspiracy. What it means is that intelligence officials within the communities within the intelligence community in DC were trying to verify if this was something that was valid, if it was something worth pursuing, and if we should be concerned about foreign interference in the future. And right now, what is happening is that Tulsi Gabbard, and I'll show you this in just a second, Tulsi Gabbard is not directly saying that it was an act of treason, but what she's doing is going right above the surface of saying it just to be sure that if this comes out even further, that this is ridiculous, that she holds on to some credibility. But I have to tell you, I don't really know if that's going to be the case, because she seems to selectively interpret context-heavy material. And because of that, you're not getting the full picture about what's happening. It also just seems like a really convenient time to do so. But if you don't believe my word for it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play you this clip where she's asked a very, very direct question by a reporter who asks her, hey, listen, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason? And I'm going to play that clip for you right now. And just a minute. This thing doesn't like me for some reason. I don't know why. All right, here we go.
The president yesterday, you've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I am not an attorney, but as...
So do you see how she does that right there? I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I am not an attorney. However, you should have if you're bringing this forward to talk about, because these are, once again, serious charges. This is not something that happens commonplace in American politics, if not politics globally. And if you are accusing the president of treason or suggesting that that is the case, I mean, you better have some clear evidence of doing so.
As I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
So there you have it. It gets about as clear as that. Once again, refusing to directly answer the question, but still insinuating that there was treason, despite the fact that Donald Trump himself said he accepted the comments of the intelligence community, and President Obama said we need to look into this, but there was no coup. Donald Trump took power. There was a peaceful transfer of power. Go ahead and let's kind of put that up against the backdrop of what happened on January 6th, where a bunch of Trump supporters stormed the Capitol looking for revenge and angry at the fact that their dear leader had lost an election that they were told for so long that he had rightfully won, even though multiple people on both sides of the political spectrum had said that the election was lost by Donald Trump. This is getting to the point where you have to ask yourself, is this about justice or is this about diversion? Because Trump's Epstein ties are reemerging in the press. Critics are suddenly arguing this treason charge is a way to redirect media energy. And there's been multiple lawsuits, freedom of information requests, as we talked about last week, and leaked photos that threaten Trump's public image that have been released here. Now, for Donald Trump to even post this deepfake video of President Obama to be erased or to be arrested is chilling. It was erased, it was taken down, but the very fact that you have a president that does not respect the office of the president enough, that while this situation is pending, you will not let the intelligence community handle this case, and you're making this into a political standoff, and you're turning it into a show, we're losing a sense of decency. And we have to really understand what happens, and this is a question we have to ask, what happens when political leaders begin to normalize misinformation as symbolism? What happens when videos like this, not just being released by just random people on the internet, but when a president of the United States who is supposed to be a credible figure and leader of the free world is posting content like this, is making claims and statements without any sort of evidence provided? We have to get to the point of saying, at what point does this turn into a joke? Or do we even trust or respect the office of the president anymore? And I would say, given everything that we're seeing right now, it seems to be, unfortunately, a joke. Now, as I said before, coup claims from this president without evidence, without any shred of evidence, it's dangerous and it is extraordinarily irresponsible. And this undermines trust in the peaceful transfer of power, our national institutions, our democracy, and elections. But more importantly, it raises legal questions, which are, can a sitting president use federal power to investigate former presidents for political gain? Now, I will say, a lot of people asked this question, and there were some that said, this is what the DOJ did to Donald Trump when Joe Biden was in power. The only problem with that is there were a multiplicity of cases that were outside of Trump's reach as the president that were being brought to trial from Trump's past, whether it was dealings with Trump University, the E. Jean Carroll case, in which the Supreme Court of the United States, by the way, ruled that the president has broad immunity in his office of power, which that essentially confuses a lot of things. And we're going to talk on one episode about constitutional power, the Supreme Court, and how that has impacted the legitimacy of the different departments or the different houses of government to provide proper checks and balances. But what we are seeing right over here is there is this complete and total abuse of power, the seeking of political vengeance through a president, And what is now also happening is if these claims come out to be false, which most people in the intelligence community are like, this doesn't make any sense. They're coming out and saying we can't even get behind some of this stuff. If you are trying to rewrite history in real time, facts start becoming foggy, trust becomes extremely, and in some cases, irreparably fragile. And these claims aren't just about 2016. This is about the future. This is about power, legacy, and control. And the deeper question really becomes, what are we willing to believe? Why are we willing to believe it? And with everything we've seen from Donald Trump, who has yet to admit a shred of guilt, yet to apologize for anything, who blames everything on everyone else, calls everything a witch hunt, why are we willing to believe his word over people that have served with him, over people that have worked with him over the years, over Republicans and Democrats that have been on the scene forever, people that know this man? At what point are we going to say to ourselves, maybe the person constantly pointing their finger is the one who's actually guilty? And the timing of this is extremely strange, especially given the fact that the Epstein case is going on and they have refused to release evidence about this, refused to get FOIA requests accepted. What is really going on? Distraction, distraction, distraction. That's for now. We'll continue to follow it, as I always tell y'all. But this smells like a disgusting distraction from what is happening right now. And we'll continue to look at that. Now that we've got that out of the way, I just want to talk to you guys about how to stay sane in this political climate. There's so much that has been going on with, you know, the commentary and there's so much that's popping out right now. It seems like every single day it is very, very difficult to keep a level head and to keep a clear mind and an open heart and stay hopeful with all the stuff that's happening, with all the news that's popping up, with all the different comments that are going on, with all the, you know, the videos that are being released, like these deepfake AI videos that, you know, we talked about here today. It can be very, very discouraging as somebody who's just a casual observer. And for me, as somebody who's deeply involved in this, who's deeply invested, constantly looking into this stuff, I know I get to the point too where I just get overwhelmed. And so I just want to encourage all of you guys, like, sometimes with everything that's happening, you can feel powerless. You can feel like there's nothing that you can do. It's like we're being hit with news piece after news piece, soundbite after soundbite, Instagram and TikTok clip and YouTube video and everything, that it can almost feel like this is hopeless. But that is the way, in many ways, that authoritarian powers or people who seek to behave like authoritarians want to carry out their plan. They overwhelm you with tons and tons, inundate you with tons and tons of fake stories or look over here. Here's the distraction while this is going on over in the corner. They threatened free speech. We looked at what just happened. There's an example of Terry Moran, who is an ABC correspondent, who posted a tweet speaking about Stephen Miller and Donald Trump. And he didn't say anything derogatory. He just stated his opinion. ABC turned around and fired him based off that comment after Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, basically said that there should be consequences. And after, you know, Donald Trump has aggressively gone after ABC, you look at what's happening with CBS and how they are now, despite the late night show with Stephen Colbert, or I believe it's the late night show with Stephen Colbert, being one of the most popular, I believe, if not the most popular late night show, they are now saying that next year he will no longer have a program. And it's not like there's a scandal. It's not like there was anything bad that he did. This is all because of everything that has happened with 60 Minutes and Donald Trump coming after them. And so if you can get corporations to completely be afraid through fear, right? Not through anything. You don't have, you know, the military showing up to the studio. You don't have tanks on the street, but you have that fear. And if you can crush people's resolve through fear and you can silence the voices of the military, of the media, and you can silence the voices of people who are conscientious dissenters, who are commenting and speaking out against this stuff, then you can begin to discourage other people from going live on the air or coming into this independent media space and sharing their opinion for fear of what could happen to them. Whether that might not be physical harm, but it may be legal trouble, bankruptcy, death threats, things like that. If you can completely demoralize individuals from speaking out about what's happening and challenging lies and the status quo, you can get a media ecosystem to fall in line. And at that point, what happens to the public? The public no longer will have the information that they need that challenges the political status quo. And that is how authoritarians gain more power. And so I want to encourage you. I know that right now we live in a climate where you have access 24/7. You could be up at 12 at midnight. You could wake up at 4 a.m, go to use the restroom, come back, and you have a news story that's blowing up about something happening in the world or in this country. But I want to encourage you. You have to find a way to stay informed, but set boundaries for yourself. I have to do this all the time. Okay. My encouragement to you, find and pick 1 or 2 trusted news sources. Find someone who's like a podcaster. It could be on this program. Find someone who speaks the truth that you can trust, that you can see is backed up with facts. And then give yourself 15 minutes at a time. Set boundaries for yourself. And also, if you're having thoughts about what's happening right now, you feel angry, you feel fired up. Can I encourage you that maybe you feel that way because of the fact that you're meant to do something? And if you're watching this and you might be a young person, you might be someone that's older, you might be someone that just cares about politics or cares about what's happening in the world. Maybe it's not even politics. You just care about what's happening in society and you believe in justice and standing up for what's right. I want to encourage you, don't stop there. Get out a notepad or get out the notes app in your phone and write down your thoughts. Don't suppress those thoughts. Don't suppress that frustration and anger. Write that stuff down and then find ways that you can use your gift, your talent, your ability to get out there. And I'll just say this for the record. Not all of us have speaking abilities. Not all of us are gifted in articulating. Not all of us are able to create a medium of art that can really challenge what's happening right now in the political status quo or the social status quo. But we've got stuff going on all over the world. We've got genocide that's happening. We've got political mismanagement and corruption and consistent dishonesty that is occurring. You have a voice. Whether you can give to a cause to help support people that are being illegally detained, whether you can write a song or create a piece of art that speaks to what's happening to try to bring other people into the mix and alert their consciousness to the cause. No part and no role is insignificant. We all have a role to play. And I want to encourage you that your role is more powerful than you think. So in this time, in this climate, find political groups, find content creators, podcasters, bloggers, authors, whoever that you feel are speaking to your point of view and speaking to the truth, and support them however you can, whether it's this program, whatever, however you support it. We need to be within the best interest of the truth, because without the truth, we have nothing. Because anything built on a lie, no matter how minuscule, no matter how seemingly insignificant, is faulty and corrupt. And the fruit of that lie is not only bad fruit, it's poisonous fruit. Because not only can it harm a generation, but it can destroy an entire consciousness and conscience of a people for not only this present moment, but for times to come. And so I just want to encourage you today. Take the time, really think to yourself, what can I do to make an impact? But take time to get yourself outside of all this mess. because we need as many smart, we need as many sensitive, we need as many artistic and creative people as we can to battle what is happening before our very eyes that is corrupt, that is wrong, that is unjust, and that is evil. And that is what I'm committed to do here on this program or in any capacity that I'm in. And I hope that you will join me in that effort because your voice and your perspective matters very importantly. Now moving on to the final segment here, I just want to say to all of you guys that are watching this program, that are consistently looking into everything, that we're doing here. I know that, I've talked a lot about self-help, and I've talked a lot about, especially when the show started, I've talked a lot about self-help and about growth, and I really do want to continue doing that. And I'm going to start having more guests on where we can talk about a lot of those topics when it comes to, leadership or your mental health or even some of these political topics. But I've had some people comment to me and say, hey, Joseph, I really love the political content. In fact, let's be honest, like the political content that I'm doing here, it does really, really well on social media, specifically TikTok. That's not the reason that I'm, making this content. I'm very passionate about this stuff, but I've gotten a tremendous amount of engagement, incredible amount of commentary about this stuff because it's just very relevant in what's happening today in our world and our politics. But I want y'all to know that self-help is very important to me. And, leaning into that, leaning into how do we grow, leaning into how do we change, leaning into, how do we become better people is very, very important. But I will be remiss if I am to look at everything that's happening in the world right now and just be one of those podcasters or content creators. Nothing against them. Some people, this is not their lane. But I would be remiss and it would be unjust for me to know as much as I know and to care as much as I do and to completely steer away from talking about this because so many people's lives are being impacted and affected. And I can't tell you, even if it's just one person that walks up to me and says, Joseph, that episode you did about immigration, it really hit home with me. This is happening to me and my family right now. Or talking about what's going on with tariffs. Someone walks up to me and says, I had no idea this was going on. I had no idea even what tariffs were. Thank you so much for educating me on this topic. I'm here to talk about a variety of things, and I'm looking forward to doing so. But it is so important, and it is so imperative that we tell the truth wholeheartedly and completely, and that we don't shrink back in the face of fear, in the face of threats, in the face of potentially losing opportunities, because what we're seeing right now is not normal. And so I just want to tell y'all, we're going to continue to bring on, the guest. I'm going to continue to talk about a variety of different topics. In fact, I'm probably going to start doing maybe one or two episodes, one episode a week where we talk about what's happening in the world politically, stuff like that as we continue to grow the channel. And also talk about self-help topics. So please stay tuned for that. But I really want to continue to be a voice, and I hope that you'll join me in that effort. If you are, if you want to know more about what we've been talking about today, or if you even want to write in and say, hey, Joseph, like there's stuff I would love to hear you talk about. I don't really hear many people talking about this, or I love your take on this. I want you to talk about this. Maybe I don't like your take on this. I want to hear your perspective, and I want to have an open debate. I am more than happy to even challenge some of these ideas or look and see where maybe I'm wrong. I'm even willing to have some of you guys come on a Zoom call and have this conversation with me. So I'm very, very open. There are going to be some different changes coming to the channel. I'm considering expanding to 3 episodes a week. Obviously, slow down, Joe. Relax. I'm considering starting off with 2 videos and then going from 2 videos to maybe 3, dealing with multiple topics so that you guys have, if you don't want to talk about listen to the politics, whatever, you can come for something else. But it's really, really important that I just set that framework because I'm not abandoning one topic or the other. But I do think that there are some things that, given where we are right now, it is important for us to be aware, and it is important for me to talk about these things so you're not in the dark. Because at the end of the day, we're all about coming full circle. We're all about truth, and we're all about honesty to the best of my ability. So I want to continue to do that. I thank you for listening. If you want to reach out to me, send me an email, send me a TikTok comment, or go ahead and shoot us a DM. Our email is fullcirclechat@gmail.com. On Instagram, it's _fullcirclepod @_fullcirclepod. And on TikTok, it's @fullcirclepod. So you can go ahead, do that however you want. I want to say thank you again for listening to us today. I appreciate it as always. Your support means a lot to me. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share this with a friend, and leave us a comment. And as I always love to say, have a great one from your favorite brother. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.